Hey everybody, before starting off today's video, I just wanted to make a quick little note before we get into anything. Number one, sorry if the audio quality takes a bit of a dip in this video compared to my other ones. The fan is on, and that causes some mic feedback occasionally. I really can't compromise that though, because to be honest, it is freakishly hot in here. Not sure why, gonna have to keep it on. I can't record for that long without the fan on today, but I do need to record this audio today, so sorry about that. You know, shouldn't be that big of a problem. Number two, really sorry for the delay on this one. Truly, I've had a lot going on in life right now. There's, Christmas hustle and bustle, there's mental health stuff, going to a new doctor, a lot to worry about, so obviously been a little bit busy and just haven't had that much time to work recently, haven't had much motivation to either, but I'm trying to get back on top of my game, getting videos out to you as quickly as I can, rather, while still making a good product. Anyway, with that being said, let's move on to the video. Welcome everybody to the inaugural episode of Archie Sonic Dissected. Today we start of course at the beginning with the very first issue of the comic, which was released in May of 1993. Funnily enough, however, it was published in July though. Written by Michael Gallagher, this comic was published 2 months after the end of a test Sonic miniseries also published by Archie. Some people recommended that I start with that one, but to be honest, since I'm focusing mainly on the main series and only going on to side things in my spare time, or if I decide that I want to, I'm gonna save that for a little bit later, so right now let's just focus on starting at issue 1. From the start, looking at the cover of issue 1, you'll notice familiar characters from the SatAM Sonic cartoon series, rather than many characters hailing from the games. This is because the Archie comics act almost as somewhat of an extension of that universe, though of course things will drastically change and come into their own over time. We open our first story on Dr. Robotnik beating the life out of a stuffed Sonic pinata with one of his crab meat bots cheering him on. I have to say, the dummy looks a lot more like a plush material of some kind than the papery appearance of most pinatas, but I mean, either way, it is still full of candy, so I suppose it gets the job done. One of Robotnik's SWAT bots brings him a potted plant, and although he's offended at first by the gift, he actually realizes it's a machine called Krudzu. The machine grows at an alarming rate, even ensnaring the nearby crab meat, and Robotnik decides he'll seed the Great Forest with the Krudzu in order to draw out the freedom fighters. An interesting thing to note, by the way, about this isn't actually in my script, but I just kind of thought about it while I was recording this. A SWAT bot brings it to him, which means that I guess the SWAT bot made it. Usually Robotnik makes all of his own robots, but I guess the SWAT bot made this one. I didn't know that Robotnik's robots could make other robots. Interesting thing to note, I suppose. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the Archie Sonic comics, aside from in passing, I just want to come out and say this first before we go any further. If you're hoping to see weird melodrama, angst, and 5 million echidnas, we're not going to get there for quite a little while. By looking at this, you've probably noticed, but the early days of the Sonic comics were more humble and much more oriented around corny gags. Not to say this is necessarily a bad thing, of course, but we're not going to get to the oh-so-delicious soap opera material until a good ways in. Just prepping you for that. Anyway, we join the Freedom Fighters in Knothole Village, where Sonic and Princess Sally Acorn are strategizing. Meanwhile, Antoine stands idly by, jealous that he's not being noticed. Sally tries to grab Antoine's attention, but ironically he's too busy thinking everyone's ignoring him to notice and rushes off to get flowers with the hopes that those will get Sally's attention. Yeah, you could just turn around, man. Princess Sally here is actually drawn in the style of the SatAM pilot rather than her final series appearance. She'll be this way for a little while before taking her more traditionally recognizable SatAM appearance. No time to think too long about that though, as Sonic and Sally both hear a scream and rush to see what all the commotion's about. The Krudzu has wrapped up Antoine. Sonic has a genuinely pretty funny line here. "Some horrible plant is entwined Antoine, entwined Twintwan, Anto Wing Wang, grabbed him!" Which does manage to make me chuckle anytime I read it. Sonic uses his signature spin attack to slice the vines from holding Antoine down, but it's growing incredibly fast, so Sonic and Sally quickly retrieve Antoine and dive back underground into Knothole. They take him to Rotor, who we meet here for the first time. He's called Boomer here, though, for some reason, and that's another thing that will change with time. Boomer takes a chainsaw out, and Antoine immediately passes out, thinking he'll be cut up, but it turns out Boomer was just actually trimming the table. He proceeds to tear all of the vines off of Antoine with his hands and tosses them into a bucket. While everyone walks Antoine around, Tails comes onto the scene and notices the cuttings. Thinking they're too dry looking, he waters them, to everyone's horror. I know what you're probably thinking. Don't worry, we're getting to it. Also, Sonic's arms changed color all of a sudden, but that's less relevant. Robotnik watches from afar and sticks his buzz bombers on the freedom fighters, hoping that this combined with the growing kudzu will ensure they're cornered in their tracks. But back inside, it turns out the water Tails poured onto the plant short-circuits it, leading to everyone realizing it's mechanical, which means Robotnik is behind this. Sonic suggests using a 5,000-foot garden hose to save the day, but it actually turns out that it's just about to rain. So, with nature running its course, the storm completely destroys all of the kudzu, and Robotnik's plan is foiled. Robotnik laments his defeat by throwing the Burrowbot who seeded the forest into the disposal. This is a pretty nice and simple resolution to the plot, but I do have a small question. If the entire forest was shrouded with kudzu, and the storm rained on all of them, given that just a page or so ago before this, the bucket full of cuttings let out a thunderous crackle of electricity when it got wet, shouldn't the entire Great Forest be consumed by an electrical fire? Or, at the very least, get super scorched due to the rampant short-circuiting? Well, we're not really too focused on hard logic right now, I guess. Critical thinking can come later. In the middle of the issue, we have some cute bumper stickers, though to be honest, this quality of paper doesn't really sell me on the idea of cutting these out and plastering them to a car. Unless they were actual bumper sticker material just in the middle of the comic, but color me unconvinced with how much these things cost back in the day. Our second story opens up on everyone looking at something in abject terror, calling for Sonic, who arrives just as they do. Turns out the big problem was that none of them could fold up the map they're looking at, and just wanted Sonic to do it for them. He obliges, though unhappy that this is all he was called for, but then Boomer explains that they were looking for a specific location where Robotnik is poised to make a big speech. The location turns out to be the Casino Night Zone, which Boomer points out on a robo-locator device. Sonic rushes over to the Casino Night Zone, which is apparently located in a place called Reno Botnik. All around are droves of robots gambling, which implies to me that the only people here to actually watch Robotnik's speech are robots he made himself. That's kind of sad. Robotnik's getting ready to make his grand entrance to the stage, but flips when he notices Sonic. The SWATbot showing Sonic in keeps begging him for a tip, which, while I admit is a funny gag, I do kinda have to wonder if he really just doesn't recognize Sonic at all. Sonic zips past him and grabs a front row seat just in time to see Robotnik introduce his newest robot, the Orbinaut, which then shoots its projectile mace ball at Sonic's head. In the confusion, Sonic is captured and put into a giant pinball machine. This is actually kind of interesting, seeing as the comic predates the release of Sonic Spinball by about 6 months. Though, I suppose to be fair, Casino Night and Sonic the Hedgehog 2 did have a lot of pinball motifs as well. Sonic is banged around inside of the machine, shocked and basically beaten to a pulp. Before Robotnik can reinsert Sonic into the machine to finish him off, though, he's distracted when he hears someone won 50 cents in the casino and promptly goes to beat them with a hammer. Talk about cheap. Sonic slyly uses this distraction as an opportunity to cut the inside of the glass with his spines, and when Robotnik returns to put Sonic back into the machine, the pull mechanism smashes into the ball and shatters it. Sonic uses his spin attack to royally bust up the machine from the inside and reflect the Orbinaut's mace balls at Robotnik and his SWATbots. Sonic escapes outside, having placed some dynamite inside before doing so, and watches as Renobotnik explodes. Robotnik is launched away into the air Team Rocket style as he thinks of turning Sonic into a pork chop dinner, getting distracted by visions of food. Classy, Archie. Classy. Sonic then returns to Knothole faced with one last challenge. Antoine can't manage to get the child-proof cap off of a jar. Honestly, I have to admit, for an end gag, that is a pretty good one. The last 3 stories in this comic are just single-page shorts, one of an awards show where Sonic rushes in and takes all of the trophies. Boomer remarks that it was a quick ceremony, and Sally says that Sonic ran away with it. Ha! The next is Sonic receiving a letter from a fan who asks what speed his legs become the blurry spinning wheels. Sonic keeps escalating his speed to build up and demonstrate, but before he can remark what speed it is that happens, he whacks into a tree branch. And finally, Sonic gives a chili dog recipe to the readers. Sally gets a coconut cream pie out of the fridge and smacks Sonic in the face with it. Yeah, that is the whole joke. Overall, the first issue of Archie Sonic is a fine first entry. The first 2 stories are a little silly and formulaic, but are fun enough. The jokes, while extremely corny at times, do have a good few punchlines here and there, and overall it does feel like a nice Sonic comic for the brand at the time. This is definitely before the comic starts to get anywhere close to story-oriented, or really even that serious, but honestly, that's okay. For what it is, it succeeds well. That's all the time we have for today's Archie Sonic Dissected. Next time we'll be diving into the appearance of a certain robot monkey, as well as a rather famous Sonic cartoon duo. See you there!